Good afternoon and welcome to yet another TUG Connects 365 webinar today. I'm Gloria Nelson, your host with TUG, and as you settle in and get ready for the start of today's webinar, let me give a brief introduction for TUG, the usergroup.org, for both our current members and those of you who represent organizations that have not yet joined our online community for distribution software users. Now, we've all heard that phrase before, that knowledge is power. And I can say with great confidence that after today's presentation, you'll be waking up tomorrow with a little more of both. But today is only one presentation of the robust content that we offer and present to our members. TUG webinars, online forums, and member events such as TUG Connects 2021 coming right up. The loyal fan rate is now available until the end of this month. And so we invite you to go to the TUG website and check that out. And also jump into the forums and get into the timely exchange of all of the ideas and information that help you work smarter and with more confidence each and every day on the job. If you're currently a member, it pays to get even more involved. And if you're not, please visit our website to discover why 2,300 heads are better than one to help you be the best at what you do each and every day. Now, I'd like to just share that very graciously, all of our presenters today have consented to give you IP confirmation that you can go ahead and screenshot, copy and paste chat that will be helpful to you on the job, and want you to buckle in for about 35 minutes today in setting that expectation. But note that everyone will stay here until the last question is either answered or we run out of time on the platform. So without any further ado, I'm going to introduce Noah Kays, VP Content Delivery with Unilog, who's going to introduce the rest of his team of presenters today on e-commerce network roundtable discussion, the power of data and how a PIM can transform your e-commerce user experience. So I'm turning things over to you now. Noah, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Gloria. Welcome everyone. I'm coming at you from Camas, Washington out here. And I'm the VP of Content Delivery here at Unilog. I manage the content we deliver to all of our customers, as well as our PIM solution itself. So I'm happy to share with everyone all the details around what a PIM is. And with me today is Scott Freimeyer, our VP of Marketing here at Unilog. We have Ted Flavion over at Dalco Enterprises, and Jeremy Ott they're all here to help us get educated on the PIM and learn more about how it will enable your e-commerce sales. All right, with that, let's get used to the webinar a little bit here. There is the chat bubble in there. So as Gloria mentioned, we encourage you guys, since we're not all in the same location here, to get to know each other through the chat bubble. And I'll start it off with there. I've heard there's some sort of basketball games that are going on today. So why don't you go out there and tell us who's all going to win, so you can help me build out the rest of my bracket, so I can win my league. So yeah, go ahead and tell us maybe where you're from and who you think's going to win. And yep, I like the Gonzaga option there too, being that they're out of my home state here in Washington. So have fun with that. Also, there is a QA bubble. So throughout the whole presentation here, I encourage you to go ahead and answer and throw your questions out there as we go. We will have a few specific breaks to answer those, and again at the end as well. But so any point in time, go ahead and put out your questions there as we go, and we'll get to them in the specific breaks. All right. With that, I think we're ready to go here. So it looks like in the chats, we got some Florida State and some Gonzaga fans. Let me go ahead and take over the presentation here. All righty. So we're going to go ahead and kick this off with a quick poll just to see where everybody is. And the poll is, do you know what a PIM stands for? Answers are pictures, internet maintenance, product information management, product interest maintenance, platform information management. So go ahead and make your guess there, and we'll see kind of where everybody is at on the spectrum of what a PIM is and what we can do with a PIM to increase your e-commerce sales. And I'll say, you know, I'm definitely all for Gonzaga, so I'm going to go in here into the chat. Alrighty, it's another couple seconds here to select your answers. Alrighty. All right, so we got all 13 responses. Everybody knows it's a product information management system. Great, that's gonna make the rest of my presentation here that much easier. So we can close that guy out. All right, so let's get going here. So before we go into too much about the actual PIM itself, let's talk about what it is we're trying to do with our data. Does this one look familiar to you guys? It's your raw ERP description that we have here. And that's it. Like no other information for our customer to figure out what it is that they're buying here. Obviously not going to convert a lot of sales here with this type of site. So really what we're talking about when we talk about a PIM and the data that is managed in a PIM is that rich content. And what I mean by rich content is multiple images, a great optimized description, talking about features and benefits, paragraphs of descriptions about the product, all the specifications about the product itself, and all the features about it. So really that full rich data set of all of the information that your customer may want to see about an item, including digital assets like catalogs, specification sheets, videos that the manufacturer may have provided to go even into more detail about that item. Or we've even seen customers create their own videos about their, or distributors create their own videos about the products so that you can add your own touch to it. I've seen people like have their salesmen create a couple of videos around some of the hot products that are out there and really provide that online presence. But how are you going to manage all this? And where are you going to store this data? And more importantly, why is it so important to your website? It drives traffic, for one, to your website. So here we did a search for a specific 3M part number, and Quality Mill here, one of our websites, is the top result here. And that's because they have the rich data about it. You can even see a bit of it here in the preview, that rich description that they have. It includes the part number in there. So that's the number one thing, right? Is everybody's looking for that organic SEO traffic getting driven to your site just by having good data. At the top of the Google search results also is a strong presence there. But it also impacts your customers itself and the on-site search experience. So if you have poor encrypted or abbreviated information on your site, not written in your customer's regional dialect or whatnot, you're not gonna have a good internal search on your site either, right? And it also informs your customer and shows off your own product expertise here, right? So the more information you can provide to your customer, the more informed they are, but also they come to think of you as their source of information about this product, where they can learn about it, and you become a reference point for them in their own journey of their projects. And finally, obviously, good data converts customers into buyers. All right, so with that, we'll jump straight into a kind of first round of QA here. Take another second or two here and see if anybody has any questions that have come up.
Yeah, no, it looks like we have one anonymous question that came in. What is the value to unique content versus common or subscribed content?
Great, thanks, Ted. So I think that one is really more about, there are many sources out there where you can subscribe to content and get content coming in from multiple sources. But oftentimes that's the same content that other people are also getting. And so the idea here is that when somebody is searching on Google, and if 50 different companies have the same description for that item, are you really penalized or not for that type of thing? And I think Scott here, if you want to jump in and explain this one a little bit, I think you have a good segue here.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Noah. Certainly, a good question. From a marketing perspective, listen, I've talked to a number of search engine optimization experts who go much deeper than I do, and they will tell you that Google, typically you hear that you do get penalized for duplicate content. However, when it comes to products, item detail pages of products that you sell, Google recognizes that, and they recognize that, hey, the specs and the attributes of these products are going to be similar. The descriptions of these products are going to be similar. So Google does a good job of not penalizing you for content that is similar about an item that you sell, about one of your SKUs. The only caveat I throw in there is that while they don't penalize you, they often, search engines like Google don't like to display on page 1 of Google 10 results that may be 10 different sites, but are all exactly the same in nature. So they sometimes will look to the one that they feel is most authoritative. What I'd recommend is it's a great strategy to subscribe to product data that other people subscribe to and to put that on your site, because it does give you a lot of benefit to your customers and to search engines. But maybe for the top 10, 20% of items that are most, that turn most often or most critical to your business, you may want to then go in on top of that data that you subscribe to and create a little bit more of a robust description, or talk about a specific use case for the product. Or to Noah's point earlier, have your team go out and shoot some very simple videos with their phone and upload that, like a how-to video or how to use video or something like that. So anything you can do to differentiate is certainly a plus. But no, you're not going to get penalized for duplicate product content.
Great.
It looks like for now that might be the only questions that we have in. Again, we are going to have another portion of Q&A, so keep sending those questions over so we get those answered.
All right, well, we'll just keep moving along then. Thanks, Ted. All right, so obviously it can be a large task to manage all of this data, to get your hands around it, and to really make it shine for your customers. So let's talk a little bit about in your ERP system, how it does and doesn't really support this. So really there aren't enough fields in our ERP system to really support all of the files that are out there, right? All the different attributes and rich data that's out there. So the ERPs are really bent for inventory management and your operations, not as a giant repository of all this rich data. Also, the complex relationships of items. So grouping different items together, it's like the t-shirt that you can sell in 3 different sizes and 2 different colors, grouping that information together, or robust related items, required items, things along those lines. That's difficult to manage in an ERP system. Taxonomy management, so this is the hierarchy of how you organize your data, and I'll go into that a little bit more as well. That's very difficult, or if not nearly impossible, to really accurately manage correctly in your ERP system. Also, managing of subsets and catalogs, and why this is important, we'll get into that a little bit too, but creating those catalogs, managing those catalogs, and then finally integrating all of this data with your different channels can be a challenge. So that's kind of what some of the challenges around the ERP itself. So what is a PIM? And we'll get into this even more here in a minute, but the main concept here is it's a single source of what they in the industry call a golden record of your item, with an ease of being able to manage that data. So it's really meant to be, and the other term is the master data management term is the golden record, or single source of the truth for an item. So do you have one location where everybody knows to go to in your company, or that all your systems are integrated with, so that you don't have multiple versions of the same information around your enterprise? And then also obviously integrated with your e-commerce site. It manages those relationships of your items, the cross-sell, the upsell, the groupings, the required related items, that type of thing. It allows you to relate different items together. It has a flexible taxonomy management. So it allows you to create categories. It allows you to create a hierarchy of those categories, manage the items within those categories, create what we call category-specific attributes that really allow you to customize each product to the category it lives in, and display all of that data to your customers. But then also it needs to provide robust import and export. If you can't get the data in and out easily, if you can't manage it and integrate it with via catalogs with other applications, then you just kind of got great data sitting in a place that you can't get it out of. So those are really some of the core tenets of what a PIM is. So now we're going to launch another question here for you guys, a little poll of who does your e-commerce platform currently utilize a PIM? Now we know a tiny bit more about what a PIM is here. Is it currently connected to a PIM where you're managing the taxonomy, you're managing the digital assets, you're managing those category-specific attributes, you're publishing that data from your PIM over into your e-commerce site? Go ahead and give us a little response there. All right. And no, your ERP system does not count as a PIM. All right, so we got about a 50-50 split here. 42% said yes, 58% said no. So that's great input there. So some of you are getting by without it one way or another right now. So let's let's keep going down this path here of what a PIM is and how you should leverage it best to manage your site. So again, let's talk about this golden record a little bit more. So you have this golden content product record. And what does it really mean to be that golden record? Well, it's centralized and people know about it being centralized in that location. It's been normalized. So this is a key component here of, especially when you're getting data across multiple manufacturers, that data is not normalized on your website. So if you are collecting information about, say, garbage disposals and their common horsepower is 1/3. Well, one manufacturer might give it to you as 0.333, another is 1/3, another is 0.333. So you need to normalize all that data into one common data standard so that on your website and in the filtering on the left navigation and such, that it's a clean experience for your customers. So that's what we call normalized data. Optimized, enriched, does it have the full descriptions, all of that. So that golden record lives in the middle, and then you're going to integrate that with all your different channels, your ERP system, your e-commerce, your print systems, so that you're not having separate entities or separate databases that are integrated with each of these, and you have all kinds of different data all over your enterprise. Let's talk a little bit more about item relationship management as well. So this isn't necessarily just related items, so cross-sell, upsell, that type of thing, but it's also that linkage between items and how your customers buy them. So in this case here, I've got this example of this rubber boot here and this work boot, and we've grouped the different sizes together. So it enables you to list one item on your website, but then easily show the different variations of that item. So this is where driving that critical linkage in the PIM itself enables really a much better customer experience on your website. And that's what this is all about, right? Managing the data is about providing a better customer experience and more functionality to your customers on your website directly. All right. And so let's get into a little bit of what a taxonomy is. So, quite literally, it is the science of classification. So it's how do you group different things together in a meaningful way. I think when you're probably going through school, everybody had to learn the classification of animals into their different segments and such. There's the Dewey Decimal System in the library. And honestly, if you guys are looking for some good taxonomists, anybody with a library sciences degree, this just comes like second nature to them. You wouldn't have thought of that going into it, but if you need a good taxonomy individual, those library science degrees, those guys are just geniuses with this stuff. And then you also have business and logistical systems. There's the United Nations, they have the UNSPSC, there's an ETIM classification, the GDSN has some of this as well. So there are some industry standards out there, but really what you're wanting to do is create one that your customers need, that groups your products together in a meaningful way to help your customers find the products on your website. Now, this is not to be confused with a taxonomy that you may use or a product hierarchy or however you might call that in your ERP system that you're using to track sales and or have merchandising groups or otherwise. Don't confuse your customer-facing taxonomy with your own internal business way that you organize your items. They're two vastly different end purposes of that taxonomy. But here we have a couple different levels. So you start with what we call level 1 or L1. Those are your critical your customers should really be able to easily understand what those are. They should be what you guys are known for. You should carefully select your level 1s because it's going to drive kind of the whole navigation of the rest of your site. Then level 2, maybe level 3 or 4, until you get down into what we call a leaf node, or the area where the items are actually found. Good best practices are don't go much beyond 4 levels. You don't want your customers to click too far down into the tree structure. And then once you get down to this individual level, this is where you're going to have category specific attributes that really allow great left navigation filtering to help your customers find your products. It allows good product comparisons on your website. That's really where the magic of the PIM happens here, is in what we call those category specific attributes. And when you're designing those, you really need to be considerate of what is that critical information that your customers need to be able to find the product and then know that that product fits their application. Do you have all the sizes needed? Do you have all the other detailed specifications there for your customer to find out so they know that that piece will fit into the project that they're trying to make it work into? All right. And then let's talk briefly too about what is catalog management. So this is the creation of subsets of items or catalogs of items that you need for a specific customer or channel or different enterprise needs. So in this little diagram here, I've kind of got the PIM in the middle here, and I've got a couple catalogs I've created off of it. I may have one catalog that I'm providing to my customer service representatives for them to review and find the data about it while they're talking to a customer live. I may have a catalog that I have specific for my ERP system, and maybe I have items that live in my PIM that don't live in my ERP, but I'm integrating data into my ERP. I'm overwriting descriptions and such because that PIM is my golden source of truth for that data. So I'm integrating a specific catalog with my ERP system. Or maybe you have obviously your e-commerce storefront that you have, or any other systems that you're synchronizing with here. You generally will be needing to create a specific set of catalogs to be able to run with and manage those those sets of items. Oftentimes also we'll see on an e-commerce site that you'll need to curate a specific set of items for a customer. Not all of your customers need to see all of your items, so you don't want to have your site diluted with a bunch of other items that that specific customer isn't needing. And so you may create customer specific catalogs and link that to your website so that when your customer logs in, they only see those items that maybe that individual user is even authorized to buy, or that customer has contracts with you on, or otherwise. So it's really allowing you to customize the catalog of items that your customers see in whatever channel it is that they interact with you. This could also be you have a catalog for your print catalog. So just the items that you want to send to your print catalog. We do see a lot of people integrate the PIM with marketing brochures or with promotional sales information, because you're going to have all that rich data in there, the descriptions, the images, the documents. It's easy or it's efficient for you to integrate that PIM and that data directly with your maybe it's your Adobe Insider or other platforms that you're using to produce those catalogs.
Hey, Noah, if I could jump in just for a second, because I think another really popular use case for different subsets of catalogs here is for the distributors who have their B2B channel, but then maybe they have a B2C showroom channel. So if you're a plumbing distributor, you have a decorative plumbing showroom, or an electrical distributor who has a lighting showroom. The PIM enables you to have multiple, separate catalogs, so the customers that go to, the buyers and the end customers who go to those unique channels can see the items that are intended for them.
Great. No, thanks for that, Scott. That was perfect. And that's also too, a robust PIM should allow you to manage multiple sites off of the same PIM. There's no reason to create secondary data stores because you have another e-commerce site. So great. Thanks for that. All right. Also, so obviously you need to get the data in and out of a PIM. So you need to be able to have a flexible architecture around that, of how is it that you're integrating that? How are you going to get the data out? Can you schedule regular exports? Can those exports be run on what they call a Delta model, where the first time you run the export, you get all the data, but then the next time you run the export, you're only getting those changes that happened since the last time you ran. So you're only using or having to touch the data that actually was modified in some way. Can you have user-defined exports where it's easy for you as a user of the PIM, without contracting IT or otherwise, to build a custom export for a specific integration or for a customer or whatever downstream channel you have? Or how are you integrating this with your BI systems, your analytical processes and otherwise? So you really need to spend some time when you're reviewing a PIM to make sure you can get the data in and out. Obviously, the way the world is going now is more much in these APIs, these application programming interfaces, where it's really easy for different systems to talk to each other through these standardized APIs that they have. That way you can either, the downstream system can call the data to the PIM and say, hey, I need all the data for this item, or I need all the data from this catalog or otherwise. And so it's kind of an on-demand or data buffet, if you will, of these applications coming in and grabbing the data that they need from the application itself. So it's really important to be able to do this easily. Can you export the data out, manipulate it, and re-import it in there as part of your management of it? Every PIM has some ability to edit the data directly in the user interface, but in the end, Excel is oftentimes still the most efficient way to do mass changes to things. So can you get it in and out real quick so you can make big changes to the data and easily manage that data either in the PIM or otherwise? All right, so PIMs provide, again, kind of back to that end customer experience. It really drives that rich customer and easy customer experience that you're looking for. So it impacts the filters. if you don't normalize your data correctly, you're going to get all kinds of different answers or values over here in your filters. And it means your customers are going to have to try even harder to find the products that they're looking for. Because again, in that horsepower example, if I don't normalize my data across all the manufacturers, I'm going to get basically 3 responses here that all look like the same thing. I'm going to have a 1-3 for 1/3 horsepower. I'm going to have a 0.333 as the horsepower and a 0.3 as a horsepower. And as a user, I would have to click on all 3 of those to get what is really one search result. So it's really that customer ease is a big focus there. And again, the grouping or relationships of items. So here in this example, this glove has 6 different options. This one has 4 different options, but it doesn't cluster the results page here with all of those items in here. Real quickly, I could, if I had to list out all 4 of these and all 6 of these, and me scrolling through the page here, I'm going to get bored or I'm going to get frustrated by not finding what I'm looking for. When really I know this is the glove I need, and I'm going to click into it and select the specific size. So again, it creates just that ease the friction of your customers walking through your websites. And then when you click into it, again, you can see all the different variations there and all this product specific details about that site. So if you want to learn a little bit more too, I would encourage you to search YouTube for what is a PIM. Joe Bennett here, one of our great employees here, and he really walks through a lot of the differences between a PIM and ERP. He definitely speaks the ERP language. Came from that industry and such, so that's definitely a good follow-up for you to check out. Also, I'd encourage you to search for how to spot a Google or how to spot a PIM imposter. A lot of e-commerce sites out there have a tidbits and some functionality to help you manage the data. But when it comes right down to it, it may not be a full, robust PIM that meets all of your needs. All right. So with that, we'll just jump right into the next question and answer session here.
All right, Noah. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I know Dalco is definitely looking at, increasing their data. So this PIM topic has been a big thing, a top conversation for us. So we do have a question. Jim Chapman, he would like to know, how does the use of a PIM affect a website's performance?
Oh, great question, Jim. So generally speaking, it shouldn't impact the performance in any sort of negative way. There's generally not a live type of integration between your e-commerce site and the PIM itself. Generally, the PIM feeds the operational database of your e-commerce site. So from that perspective, it really shouldn't impact it. Now, on the other side of it, the more rich content that you're putting on your site, the images and the documents and such, if you're not careful about that, or if maybe you're not using a content delivery network, a CDN, as they say, which puts those items out there around the region so that they can be pulled down by your customers really quickly. You may be considerate of, file size limitations. There's, sometimes those catalogs can get really big if you're attaching those on there. So you do want to look at and have some data standards around the size of images that you have on your site. Generally don't have anything more than 20 megabytes because that will start impacting the page load time per se. But just connecting a PIM inherently to your site should not have any sort of performance impact on it. It's more of that rich content.
Awesome, thank you. Looks like we do have another question. It's an anonymous one. Is there a limit to how many products I can get data for through a PIM? Or is there a minimum amount of products I need on my site and my ERP?
Sure. So maybe I'll attack that one from the minimum side. I would say in this day and age on your website, customers are kind of expecting you to have everything on your website that you sell, right? Like I know if I go to Lowe's.com and I'm searching for something and I don't find what I'm finding there, I'm just assuming they don't sell it. So at this time, this day and age, if you have a website, I think to a certain extent, the customer expectation is that if you sell it, it's on the website. Now on the Mac side, I would say no, a PIM should not have a limitation. Obviously, there will be some limitation, probably not trillions or billions of items, but most PIMs should be able to handle millions of items, especially if that's how you solve it or that's how you sell it. I know for a fact we have several instances where our customers have several million items within their PIM, so there should not be an upper limit. Now, from a usability of your website, now say you have an extended catalog outside of what you stock, you may not say to list everything out there because you're going to dilute your stocked items potentially, or those items that you have a higher margin in. So when you talk about an extended aisle, or sometimes they call it an endless aisle of those things that you can order from the manufacturer, maybe you don't stock it, you may be slightly more strategic about which product lines and how you list those on your website, because you still want to drive some focus to those items that you actually do stock. And again, please do go ahead and in that question bubble there, if you do have questions, and just type them right in and we'll get them addressed.
Great. Thanks, Noah. Looks like we have another anonymous one. I have a PIM, or if I'm going to implement a PIM, can I still add or manage product data outside of the PIM?
Yeah, that's a great question. So definitely, as you're going through your PIM selection and just your own internal discussions around it, not everything is meant to be managed in a PIM. That golden source of record, what I'm really talking about there are the descriptions around it, not necessarily that operational data that drives your ERP system. And so we call this what they kind of call it data flow or data architecture, where you're kind of going attribute by attribute or field by field, and you're saying, well, this my ERP system is really critical for pricing. I would not manage pricing in my PIM. That's not the correct location to manage pricing. I would not manage my inventory in my PIM. That's not that kind of operational data. Absolutely do that where it's managed best, where it's operationally critical. Manage that in your ERP system. Hopefully your e-commerce system is integrated with your ERP system, so that it's pulling that availability, it's pulling that price from your ERP system. A PIM is not the location to manage those more operational fields. Great question.
Thank you, Noah. Looks like we have a couple more that came in. Another anonymous one. Where do PIMs receive product data from? How are you receiving that data?
Good question. So as we kind of mentioned in the beginning, there are services you can subscribe to that will provide that product data for you. Unilog offers one. There are others out there in the industry. Generally, when you start to have tens of thousands of SKUs, it's a big job to collect, manage, enrich, normalize, and maintain that data. It's not a one-person job. As soon as you get more, I'd say even 10,000 SKUs, to really manage that data, to reach out to all the manufacturers, to go to the websites, download those images, load it all, build it all out. There's a lot of work there. So there's definitely some subscriptions out there, or other services where teams will go out there and build that data for you. So I would definitely anticipate that. There are industries out there. There's the Global Data Synchronization Network. They call it the GDSN. They provide a lot of core logistical information around data. It may not be fully web ready, but it's a start. And there's a lot of other services out there that can provide that data. Other than that, I would say it's reaching out to your manufacturers and asking them to provide this rich data. Most of them will be providing it somewhere to somebody anyways. They want you to have their rich data. They want you to sell more of it. So I would reach out to them, especially for the images and documents and some of those things. It's harder to find a high resolution image out there on the web on their manufacturer site. So at least asking for that from them to help enable your sales.
Thank you, Noah. It looks like some more questions are still coming in. Another anonymous one. It looks like, let me see if I can find it here. So if I go with a PIM, can a PIM tell me what I'm missing for data? If I already have data on my site, can it just automatically tell me you're missing this data and how to get that?
So from an automated perspective, that's a bit challenging. Most PIMs can tell you where your data is lacking. So when you have items that don't have high fill rates, what I mean by that is a lot of missing attributes or missing images or missing documents, things along those lines, you'll be able to run reports in there to here's all the missing images. And so you can have a task to go out there and try to source those. It's not necessarily going to be able to say you're missing these items on your website. Now, however, it would provide you that ability to compare the items in your PIM to the items in your ERP system, so that you can say, hey, I'm selling this in my ERP system, but it's not yet in my PIM, so I need to work on getting that rich data and adding it into the PIM so that my information can be out there on the website.
Thank you, Noah. Looks like I got another question. Steve Patson asks, how does a PIM tie into the e-commerce system?
Great question. So it really depends on the e-commerce system, but generally there is an integration that happens there. The more common ones that are out there, your PIM creates an export of the data in a specific format that your e-commerce platform can intake. So most e-commerce platforms have some sort of intake method to load the data in there. So at the low end, you're creating a file that can be manually uploaded into your PIM. That's kind of the starting point. Then hopefully you're going to automate that where your PIM is landing a file on an FTP site and your e-commerce platform is looking for that file. It's going to pick it up and automatically run it in and run those updates. More evolved platforms may be using that API method where your e-commerce platform is doing a daily or weekly call to your PIM to get any updated or new information and integrating that data. Now, there's a couple other pieces to that too, if you think about the digital assets. So some PIMs will host the images locally into the PIM. Other PIMs will also host them directly on a Google Content Delivery Network or any content delivery network, so that instead of actually pushing that image file from your PIM to your e-commerce site, literally, and hosting it on that server, you're just pushing the URL to where that image is hosted on the content delivery network. And that, again, I can't recommend that enough. It will speed up your page load times. It'll prevent you from pushing gigabytes and gigabytes of digital assets all around and getting them into your site. It will lower your server costs on your e-commerce server as well, because you're not storing all those things there. And it's just generally where the world is going now with delivering that rich content. But there's no one answer for how a PIM is tied into your e-commerce system. It varies by each one. I will say with our system, it's fully integrated. It's more of a synchronization than it is an integration, because it all runs kind of off a similar database. In our PIM, we push the data directly into our Solar search engine, which Solar is, think of it as the Google for your site. And so our PIM is directly integrated with the Solar engine on our website, so that when you change data in the PIM, it's almost instantaneously seen on your website. So there's various levels of integration that go along with that.
And Noah, just to add on to that, that's an important question to ask, right? When you're talking to e-commerce vendors, if you believe in the value that a PIM delivers, to find out, is that included inherent in the platform, or do I have to go to another source? For instance, I know, Magento is a very popular e-commerce platform. Magento does not have what Noah and I think would consider a traditional PIM as part of their solution. So customers often will look elsewhere. Well, that could easily double your investment in your e-commerce channel just by having to bring in a standalone PIM solution integrated with your e-commerce platform. So it's an important question to ask.
Double the initial investment and the maintenance of it over time, and the integration, and just more systems is more integrations and more complication.
Yeah.
All right, thank you guys. I think we have time for one more question. Let's get this one in quick here. It's an anonymous question. I have product data in my ERP currently. How should I use this data in conjunction with a new PIM system?
Yeah, so obviously the first thing you want to do is clean up that data and make it consumer ready. Rarely do I see ERP data ready to put on your website. Those descriptions just don't do it. So first thing is to consider what it's going to take to get that data to be customer facing ready to meet those marketing requirements. So I would work on enriching and normalizing that data. I would understand set up your data standards. And what I mean by that are, how do you model your data? What are the standard unit of measures you use? I can't stress that enough. Your data standards, defining in the beginning of how you want your data to look, when you're going to use a slash, a dash, different things like that. Doing that early will save you a ton of work later, so that you're going to provide normalized, consistent data across the field. So you really do have to convert, enrich, normalize, standardize that data before or as a function of loading it into the PIM. You may load it into the PIM and then do that work in the PIM, and that may facilitate that. But yeah, definitely define those standards as much as you can, and be ready to know what a good product data looks like, and define that before you get into it. Great.
All right, I think that wraps up all the questions that we have coming in. So thank you guys.
Great.
Noah, this is Gloria. I just want to ask you, if someone wants to reach out for more expert content from either you or Scott, who should they reach out to? And do you have a slide with the content information that you can flip to so that people can either screenshot it or jot it down?
Yep, there it is. So it's noah.kays and unilogcorp.com.
Thank you so
And I'll
much.
be more than happy to talk to you about your content needs, your PIM needs, your e-commerce needs, all of it.
Well, I want to just say for starters that it has been an extremely interesting conversation today that we've had the opportunity to enjoy in what you've presented and talked about. I know that it's a pretty deep dive. And one of the things that we love about TUG is that we continue to bring great content. Now, I want to take a moment and just share with you that if you take a look at who's on today as the panelist, Jeremy, would you unmute yourself and say hello to folks?
Yeah. Hey, everyone. I'm Jeremy from Reinders. Feel free to reach out to me too if you have any questions about PIM related items.
And just as a point of information, Robin McGuire used to be the network leader in charge of e-commerce. And with her ascent to the board of directors, Ted and Jeremy are going to be the co-network leaders for e-commerce going forward for this year. So if you have any e-commerce things, just note that, post into the forums, they're going to be monitoring those as we go forward. And so on this note, gentlemen, in honoring the time, we've gone a little bit over our 35 minutes, but first of all, Noah and Scott, extremely well done. Thank you for being with us today. TUG members appreciate you and your expertise. Ted and Jeremy, thanks for coordinating everything today. And also, I would be remiss if I didn't thank everyone for joining us online today and being part of our digital audience. So on that note, let me just tell you to watch. This is for all members, all ERP users. Watch your inbox because you should have received an invitation for the Esker webinar that is coming up next Tuesday on order management for support and strengthening your digital presence. TUG members also, just a quick reminder, feel free to continue the conversation on our digital forums. If you're not a member yet, I say join today. Go to www.theusergroup.org and either join or register for TUG Connects 2020-21. It's going to be awesome. And now that you've had a taste of some webinars, we have lots of great content coming your way. So as they say in Hollywood, everyone, that's a wrap.